Good morning, folks. I'm Joe Wesley of J&L Creative Solutions, and I want you to be very much involved in this program. First, by thank you for being a member of this. If you've been already to our prior sessions, if you're brand new at this, thank you again for joining us. The purpose of this, for those who are new to us, the title being, are you prepared to take the hot seat challenge to learn an ingredient of your secret sauce? What's that? People ask. Well, it's a unique value about who you are that will draw your ideal market to you over your competition. So it's how do you stand out of value? And each of us have value. Many of us don't know what it might be. Well, the hot seat challenge is to help discover one's enhanced value. I'll call it like that. So my guest today is
Geoffrey Kent, founder and CEO of Think Big with Geoffrey Kent.
Fair enough. Thank you. This is live pre-recorded, and I understand why you have to say live pre-recorded, but we don't edit the session. So if mistakes are made, you're going to see them. If glitches happen, you're going to see those also. I think it gives part of the credibility of the environment. I begin by asking questions. And the question I will ask Geoffrey is, what's his secret sauce? Rephrase that. He won't know that. I will ask him, what's his favorite pastime? And that goes to his passion, which describes who he is, as opposed to, tell me about yourself. Well, I got 3 kids and 8 grandkids and bought and sold 5 businesses. It doesn't describe the person. Because what I've discovered is your favorite pastime goes to your passion, that goes to who you are, that likely goes to what your business is now. And it gives you that distinct value over your competition. And so I'm going to ask Geoffrey, what's your favorite pastime?
I'm going to give you 2 things.
Okay.
So I love to sing. I don't sing enough, and haven't sung in quite a while. But I absolutely enjoy singing.
Interesting.
And so
excuse me, I'm going to interrupt. Something I missed, and I'm sorry for this.
Sure.
I keep a notepad because I forget things, and right now it's blank. And I make notation. So when I'm looking down, it's not because I'm disinterested. It's because I'm making notation. So you say you love to sing.
I love to sing. As I said, I haven't sung, in organized fashion in a long time. I only sang to myself and sang to my daughters. The other pastime is and this really drives what I do and who I am is trying to spend as much time in my daughters' lives, helping them, being available to them as humanly possible. Of course, they're both in their 20s, so I think the older one probably enjoys spending time more with me than the younger one does.
I hear that, but I'm going to hazard a guess, and I respect you for that, and I appreciate you for that. I'm going to hazard a guess. When you were 5 years of age, you weren't worried about sharing time with your daughter.
No, I didn't have one.
That's a safe one to go with.
Yeah.
Now
but even then, I didn't. I sang all the time, right?
Okay.
Even as a young child.
Any particular type of music or genre?
I heard a little bit of everything. My dad was a career Air Force officer. I've lived on 4 continents, so I've heard a little bit of everything, and so I just liked to sing what I heard that I liked, and I did that from the earliest age that I can remember. But it wasn't until I got to college that someone. Friends came over my apartment. I was still, getting ready. I think I might have been in the shower, and they heard me singing in the shower. They were in the college choir, and they were like, "You need to audition for the choir. You can actually sing." And I'm like, "Okay, I've heard people tell me I can sing, but I've never had an opportunity to join an organized group and sing with an organized group. So that kind of started a singing career, but
interesting. Now, did you grow up in the church? Did you have a family member that sang, or you just started humming yourself and from the age of 3 and kept working at it? How does that work?
No. I mean, I just remember. I've always loved music. Had always, music was always part of the household. I don't know of any professional singers in the family,
right?
But I just, for whatever reason, music connected with me in a way that nothing else did, and so so yeah, that was that. The two things that are probably most prominent when you go back to really early age was my love of music and my love of math. You know,
Oh, well, you kind of slipped that one in there. But let me,
yeah,
before I get to the math, I'll come back to the singing. So you would sing country western, you would sing bluegrass, you would sing R&B, you would say, I'm hearing, is that what I'm hearing in terms of what you,
yeah. Well, the predominance of what I was hearing was R and B,
okay,
or gospel. But my father's family is from Beckley, West Virginia, and so
right,
when we would, and I'm sure that it's changed now with satellite radio and whatever. But I remember back when I was a little kid in the 1960s, and we would, my dad would take his entire 30 days of vacation in
mm,
1 month, and we had a station wagon. We'd get in the station wagon and literally drive around the country. We had this route that we would take to visit all of our relatives. And
mm-hmm,
so when we'd go to visit his family that was still in West Virginia, I remember as a little kid, from at least say 5 years old,
right,
that when we hit the state line for West Virginia, the only thing you could hit that was played on the radio at that time was hillbilly music,
mm-hmm,
you know, and so and as I said, you know, uh, 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 I've heard a little bit of everything,
okay,
and then once I started singing, because I joined the gospel choir in college, and then the director of the choir was a music major at
right,
school, and
okay,
so he was involved in a lot of different things. He thought I really had a good voice, so he started to pull me into other projects that he was involved with. So I mean, I actually got opportunities to sing on stage at concerts with professional, gospel artists and you know different things like that. So and got pulled into productions where I was performing, Broadway musicals,
hmm,
jazz music, popular music, you name it.
interesting. Now, do you ever compose any songs on your own, or was it songs you've heard?
No, no, that's never been a gift of mine.
Mm-hmm,
I I've never studied musical composition, so I don't, and I've never, not to my knowledge. Well, if you talk to my oldest daughter, I actually kid her all the time
mm-hmm,
because when I'm home on the weekends, and so when I get home, she lives
mm-hmm.
with me, and she'll just say anything,
Right.
no matter what she says, I said, "Oh my god, I just came up with a song for that," and I'll
Interesting.
come up with something really stupid, and
I
of
do
course, her the look on her face tells it's stupid, but
that.
it's like I'm telling her, hey, I'm a musical, writing savant,
I
and
hear
so
that.
it's just a running joke we have.
Now, there are people who I know music that will sing because it's intuitive for them. I'm seeming to get that impression. They don't know how to read music though, in terms of notes and whatnot. So when you sing, was it by memory or by play the chord for me so I can figure it out? How did you work that?
Yeah, so I actually have an ear for music.
Mm-hmm.
I do not know how to read music. I remember I think I was probably 5 or 6. So I'm the youngest of 4. My one of my older sisters was taking piano lessons. So I guess at maybe around 5 or 6, my parents decided, okay, maybe I have the attention span to take piano lessons myself. So they sent me. They realized after a year of me begrudgingly going to piano lessons every day and not wanting to practice that it wasn't worth paying to send me to piano, so they kept my sister going, but they I didn't have to go after a year. But once I started performing in college, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I wish I had kept that up because I'd be able to read music. But
Right.
what I was able to do though is, and I just remember this starting kind of with the gospel choirs, when the director would play something,
Mm-hmm.
I could actually he would only have to play it one time, and you know, I could go sing what he wanted me to do,
Nice.
which there were actually music majors that couldn't do that. I didn't know why I could do that and they couldn't. They could read the music, but
Right.
it would be funny kind of, when we're rehearsing and that, these music majors would be screwing up notes, of something he had just taught us.
Right.
He'd only have to play it once for me, and I would, from start to finish, be able to
Interesting.
remember and recite it perfectly.
I hear that. You mentioned another item that you did also, aside from singing. What was that again?
Math. I've always I was always a very good student, but I loved math, and to this day, because I spend Monday through Fridays with my parents in upstate New York because my father's suffering from dementia,
Hmm.
and so I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've got a 4-hour drive each way to visit my parents in upstate New York, and
Right.
you know, when I'm driving, I really don't even need a radio on. I just calculate numbers in my head,
Interesting.
and I'll do, and that just 4 hours flies for me because I just, I'll multiply, divide, you have it. It's just the way my brain has always worked.
Okay. I'm intrigued by that. I was a math minor and I took math because I have awful recall.
Okay.
Don't ask me in one column, give me dates, and another column, give me people or events and draw cross lines between the two to connect. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I chose math as if you could reason, you could solve the problem. It
Yeah.
sounds like for you, math is the same to you as singing was to you, if I'm
Yeah.
hearing it
Yeah.
correctly.
I mean, I went undergrad. I went to the University of Oklahoma. I actually was given a full academic math scholarship.
Interesting.
Because I scored incredibly highly on the ACT in math.
Okay.
And was basically a straight A+ student in math
Interesting.
all my life. So yeah, once I got there and took my first advanced calculus course as a freshman, with I had this brilliant professor, and he would throw problems on the board and ask us to solve them, and then he would solve it, and he solved the problem faster than I could,
Right.
and it frustrated me because I've always wanted to and been driven to be the best at anything I did, and I was
Right.
like, "Well, I'm not as good as him, and so I don't want to do this anymore." Because I started college thinking I was going to be a mathematician,
Right.
and when I saw this person who was better at math than I was, it was like, okay, I don't want to major in math anymore. But I've always loved math. So then it was, what other major could I take on that would allow me to utilize math?
Okay.
And that's when I transferred to the business school.
Okay. Oh, now I have to digress a little bit. Not all of it's when I say math to my wife, she runs from me like I said, I've got the plague. So
Yeah,
I'm going to assume that members of our audience, or they talk about the rocks to be seen on Saturn, I can see people getting excited with a science background.
yeah,
One night program talk, it's rocks. What's the
yeah,
big thing about rocks? I don't get it. So we
yeah.
won't talk too much more about math, audience. Uh,
Right.
in fact, let me do a commercial break. We are simultaneously podcasting to YouTube, to LinkedIn, and to Facebook. And each of us will have a description of what we do in the YouTube version of it, that each of us will provide links about how to connect with us, contact us. I would ask that for those who are watching us to, one, subscribe so you know when the next event comes up of this type nature, that share us with your friends, with your associates. Please leave comments, good or bad. We audit the comments, and as best we can, we get back to them. If you have questions, you'd like to be a part of this, please connect with us also, myself in particular, with the Hot Seat Challenge concept. And people ask, is there money for that? No, there isn't. Rephrase that. What does it cost you? An hour of your time. And building your business is worth that in a better manner, more effective manner. Please feel free to connect with us. But I'm going to move on in terms of the math concepts. If I get it correctly, it's an enjoyment for you. It's as intuitive for you as singing was. To me, it's like right and left brain working together here
Mhm.
as a concept. And I'm laughing because many people I know, we don't have intuitive skills like that we're kind of born with. Now, when you did the math as a primary focus, was it, I know the different types of math.
Right.
Okay. So was it because it was intuitive you did it, or because you enjoyed the challenge of it, or because you like problem solving? Any aspects of that in the ingredients of your love for math? It's like, or was it like singing? I'm good at it. It's intuitive, and okay, a problem, let's solve it. I'm trying to get a sense of where you are on that.
Yeah, I to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know. But
Okay. Okay.
if I were to, try to deduce what drew me to math,
Right.
is math is very, very exacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's either right or wrong.
Right.
There's no interpretation,
Okay.
versus, in English, if I write something, depending on who reads it, they interpret whether they like what I wrote or not. Math doesn't allow that type of interpretation. It's, you when you do some type of calculation and solve something, the answer is right or wrong. There's no gray area. So I think, being able to, come up with the right answer or wrong answer, and
Mm-hmm.
and it not be up for interpretation is probably what drew me to it.
Good.
In terms of, um,
Can I interrupt?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
A thought just occurred to me, and um, I was involved in education facility at one point, and they made a comment. The people in the industry said math and music, it's the same basis of interaction.
Mhm, mhm.
And I still don't get it. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna like,
yeah,
but when you said math is very exacting, well, so is music. The
yeah,
note
yeah,
is very
absolutely.
exacting.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well. When you're writing, and when you're performing, music is, depending on the style,
right,
it's based on beats, right? So you're accenting, the second beat or the fourth beat or the third beat or the first beat, so
right.
so yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's music is very mathematical.
Interesting. Because I was thinking right brain, left brain, but there seems to be emerging a confluence of the sides of brain to work that. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's no longer as mind boggling having just realized this concept that I'm thinking, geez, the guy sings intuitively, then he does math intuitively. How does that connect? But
yeah,
when you said it's exacting, very exacting, that's to me, that's the connection there. And I didn't think of it in
yeah,
terms of beats and the tempo, perhaps. That if you're off kilter, they say you're pitchy, you're not pitchy, you're not on the beat.
yeah.
Let me stop, because I'm getting
Yeah.
overwhelmed by the
Well,
concept of it.
well, even for our younger audience, who
Hmm.
might be into, say, rap or
Right,
hip hop, when if you watch rap artists, particularly when they're freestyling,
right.
someone might say, "Hey, give me 16 bars," right, or
Interesting.
there's
Okay.
X number of bars, right? So
Okay.
again, it's tied to math, right? And then that's kind of how they take that and interpret that, and then that's they adjust how they respond based
Hmm.
on a numerical sequence, right?
Okay.
So yeah,
The way you describe this, and each instance I've watched you, as you were describing both the music and the math, your face lit up in either instance.
yeah, okay,
So I get the sense that it's not basically a mechanical thing. You're good at it. Why not do it? You really enjoy.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Okay. Well, so for a guy who doesn't sing and not in the math except as an escape vehicle, what's the enjoyment? Could you share that with me? That from your perspective.
I mean, well, first of all, it's just relaxing, right?
Okay.
So again, if you get in a car and drive for 4 hours, that can be incredibly stressful. You're
Hmm.
dealing with traffic and so on and so forth. You run into an accident, and now you're supposed to be somewhere at a certain time, and based on the accident, you're going to be delayed 30 minutes, and then now you got to call. If you had an appointment you were trying to make, you got to call them and let them know you're going to be late, and
Right.
so just driving in and of itself can be incredibly stressful. So being able to find some kind of uh, 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 vehicle that allows you to get, at least mentally, out of where you are, and is for me, it's incredibly relaxing. So and it's I kind of go back to, I've been asked, you know um why did you become an entrepreneur? And again, I tell people I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Okay.
it's just God-given gift, right? So, but I started my first business when I was 12 years old in 8th grade,
Okay.
and we had moved from Germany back to Syracuse, New York, and so I met some kids, and they were like, "Hey, we have a job at the commissary, which is the equivalent of a grocery store." And they're like, we they allow us, kids to sack groceries for tips. And
Right.
so if you're interested in making some money, why don't you come to the commissary, when we go to work tomorrow and apply for a job and, you can make some money. So
Right.
I did that and realized that I was really good at what I was doing. I was making more money than the average kid doing this. But where the entrepreneurial piece kicks in is, you know, I'm military used to, I don't know if they still do, they used to pay monthly,
Hmm.
the military, you know, soldiers and everything, you got paid monthly. And so, and it was, again, I'm talking the 1960s, there was mostly men, were in the military and
Right.
women were the mothers. So the mothers were coming to shop once a month to
Hmm.
get groceries. So they were buying a lot of groceries.
Right.
And so the commissary tended to sell in bulk.
Mm.
And so I would look at bags of candy that I knew kids were eating a lot at school, that,
Hmm.
really popular candies.
Right.
And I would look at this big bag and I'd look at the price that was marked on the bag. I'd look at how many pieces of whatever type of candy it was in the bag. And immediately I would divide that number into the price to
Hmm.
figure out how much was this candy per piece of candy.
Right.
And then I knew, because I had friends who weren't, their parents weren't in the military, who didn't have access to the base commissary. I knew what they were paying for these candies on stores off the base.
Right.
And it occurred to me, it's like, you know, you can get this candy literally for let's say a quarter of the price of what someone is paying off the base. And
Right.
then my mind took me to, wow, I could take all of my tip money, buy as much candy as I could buy, take it out of the bag, put it in my lunch bag, take it to school, sell it for twice what I'm paying for it, and still, I would be charging half of what kids would pay for at the store in their neighborhood. And so I started doing that, you know.
Interesting.
And but again, what made me think that I could do that, I don't know.
Now, we're actually engaged, and the timing is spot on, folks. As I say, the format is I begin by asking what's your favorite pastime, because it just goes to your passion. And then we talk about your business in terms of what got you on that path. And I think Geoffrey just opened the door for us in discussion here. It's interesting how things flow on their own at times. So, what is it that you do now as a business?
So as a bit, well, what I primarily do is mentor entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
I've been at this entrepreneurial thing for 5 decades. I've launched more than 20 ventures over that 5 decade period. I actually sold my last company 11 years ago. It was a private cloud computing business in Philadelphia.
Right.
And so that basically, the success of that particular venture specifically allowed me to kind of relax a little bit more in my career and start to give back. And so so what I do now, I started as I was mentoring entrepreneurs, I've had this common theme that I was hearing from people I was mentoring, and it was, Jeff, you have way too much knowledge in your brain. You need to share that with the entrepreneurial world. Why don't you write a book?
Hmm.
And I held off doing that for a long time, and then finally succumbed and said, "Okay, I'm going to write a book." And so I started down that process. I have a friend who's in the publishing industry. We put together a book proposal. Started to, he was trying to get me a deal, and but he as he was doing this, he was also still introducing me to people in his ecosystem. So
Hmm.
he introduces me to a company in Seattle, Washington that takes author content and converts it into online coursework. And so the CEO of that organization said, Jeff, stop writing your book. Young people don't like to read. They have to be entertained with videos.
Hmm.
And so why don't you let's build a course, an online course. And oh, by the way, you're going to write your book while you're doing this anyway, because
Hmm.
you have to self-narrate this course. You're
Hmm.
writing all the dialogue you're going to narrate, and
Right.
so that in essence is going to give you what you need for your book. So I shifted and moved into that direction, and then realized, okay, once I have this online course, I really need a business entity to surround this and anything else I was going to do as it relates to mentoring entrepreneurs. So
Hmm.
I created what I call, the business is called, Think Big with Geoffrey Kent, because I'm always trying to get entrepreneurs to think bigger than they think. And so, when I tell them that, they, tell me what you do. Tell me how you impact the customers you serve. And as we have these discussions, I'm like, okay, I need you to think bigger.
Okay, fair enough.
How would
I'd like to share
Yeah,
some thoughts.
absolutely.
Excuse me. Intriguing, to put it mildly. And I guess I'm going. Sometimes I work backwards. Sometimes they start at the beginning and come forward. I think I'm going to start at the beginning and come forward.
Okay.
You have two intrinsic skills,
Yeah.
and actually, it's one skill, two outcomes of that skill. That singing, that you can be, I'm assuming, pitch perfect. You can remember the note the first time you hear it. It took me 3 months to remember my wife's name correctly before we got married. You hear it one time, you're good to go. You got my hat of admiration on that. Having said that, and you math the same thing. And it was intuitive to you.
Yeah.
I just today had the insight. I heard that math and music were a marriage, and I never understood it until this dialogue with you.
Mhm.
But I get it. I talk about pitch perfect. When I talk about with math, there's no ambiguity. It is what it is. And
Yeah.
unless you're into theoretical math or something, that's a whole different format, I'm assuming. So, but these are things that came natural for you.
Mhm.
And I've never heard of anybody that would solve math problems as an escape from the traffic around them and the aggravation around them,
Yeah.
or sing in the shower,
Right.
okay, as an escape. And to me, the similarity is absolutely mind-boggling. And the audience, I showed you at the beginning a blank sheet of paper. I've now got a full page of, I don't know how well you see it in the light,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's a full page now of information. And the commonality of it is you have a skill that people tend not to have.
Mhm.
And it's a good skill. It could be bad skills, I guess, perhaps, but you have a perception and awareness that is intuitive for you.
Mhm.
And the story you shared about the candy and having a head, even as a younger person, having the observation skill to realize something, to delve into it proactively. Yeah, kids, you make your money, you go home, you spend your money, you make your money again. But you took it
Mhm.
further than that
Yeah.
because that's who you are.
Right. Right. Right.
And the concept being that I pick up, and I'm looking at my notes again, is that you feel good about it.
Yeah.
You sing for enjoyment, you do math for enjoyment. I still don't get the
Yeah.
concept of math part. But you enjoy what you do besides be good at it also, and you're intuitively good at it. And I emphasize that because it's not something you necessarily go to college and learn the skill.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
this is, and so you become an entrepreneur because I'm assuming you're just as good at that, and you've said
Yeah.
that historically,
Yeah.
that as everything else you've done. And the
Yeah.
messaging here that I pick up, am I far off? Well, you keep saying yes. I'm assuming I'm not far off the concept here.
Yeah. No.
Anybody can go to school and take courses on how to be a business coach. And I'm not knocking the industry.
Mhm.
To have business experience and be an entrepreneur. But I have no doubt that whatever you do has been exceptional. You've
Yeah.
alluded to that. But people always allude, I'm the best at what I do. What I'm reading is a guy who is really good at what he does.
Right. Right.
So for those of you who are looking to build your business, and I think many people don't make a choice because they're afraid to make a bad choice with their money and time spent. Well, in my world, Geoffrey Kent would be the go-to guy that has an intuitive perception of what he gets involved in. And I think it drives you. I don't think moss collects in your shadow because you don't stand still long enough to make it happen. As you've alluded to the fact you've had multiple businesses.
Yeah.
So For those of you who would like to contact more with Geoffrey to learn about his skill, his business, his value to you, please make a point to look at, I said the YouTube version in the description section, because I think the other versions may or may not have that option to you. But if you go to YouTube and click the link in, or look at it through YouTube, that information will be available. Please connect with him for more information and more value to your business. If you see where it might work for you, would like to learn more about that. And for those who would like to be a guest on my hot seat environment and learn more about what I do, please feel to connect with me also. I have to say, Geoffrey, this has been a really pleasure. Anything you'd like to take us home with before we sign off?
Well, just thank you for giving me the the platform to talk to your audience with the secret sauce. Thank you for helping me understand a little bit more about myself. I've had an absolute pleasure talking to you as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much, folks. We'll see you next time around. Again, remember to subscribe to get a reading ahead advance notice when I say reading of the next session coming up. These are scheduled regularly on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week, depending on where we pull our audience from. Have a good rest of the week, folks.